Hey you, come on over. Mom's not home till 6, and we're exploring the TV and movies that made you turn down the volume so your parents wouldn't hear. We're going to build our intimacy literacy and dig into all the weird messages we took from pop culture about sex, relationships, and ourselves. Because, let's be honest, this was all the sex ed we got. Today, I am joined by the person who would never kick you out of a fancy boutique, but would take all your money. Blair Somerville,
Yes.
relationship therapist, specializing in gender, sexuality, and the queerest of them all. How are you, Blair?
I'm okay. Thank you. I do love the juxtaposition of how nice and welcoming I am and that I will take all of your money. And I am a therapist. So thank you.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I feel like you contain multitudes, and I hope that this is a nice tease about our topic today.
I do contain multitudes. I always say luxury is my vice. And I am joined by Veronica Dress. She's a sexuality educator, a coach, an intimacy director for theater, and given just a little time, could grow her hair out to have the beautiful Julia Roberts hair that we see in the movie we're discussing today, which is Pretty Woman. And you can't see this because it's an
I just took my hair
auditory
down.
medium. But she took her hair down very dramatically. Did every hair commercial wishes they could. Swishing her hair side to side. Beautiful, red, fluffy, curly hair. Veronica. Or is it Julia Roberts?
It's Julia Roberts. I take umbrage with something that will not come up in our sexuality focus of this movie, but is important nonetheless to name. Is that if you have the keen eye that I happen to have, you will notice that when we see Julia Roberts as a refined, fancy lady, her hair has been blown out.
Yeah. Yeah.
When her natural curls are out, we're not supposed to respect her as much as an audience.
Yeah.
And I take issue with that. So
Huge
notice
issue.
what the hair choices are saying to the people, Blair. That's for my
I
other
agree.
podcast about hair messaging for curly-haired people.
Yes. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that podcast. I did notice that too, because the first time we fully see her without her, blonde wig, her hair is so curly, it's so fluffy, and I was obsessed with it. And it's never that fluffy again because it's done up in fancy hairdos and straightened or blown out or whatever the hell.
So good.
But if you don't know, listener, what we're talking about right now, because like me, you had never seen this movie before. So I watched this movie for the first time for this podcast. Pretty Woman is a 1990 American romantic comedy film. It stars, like we said, Julia Roberts as Hollywood escort Vivian Ward and Richard Gere as wealthy corporate raider Edward Lewis. I had not actually heard the term corporate raider before this movie and reading stuff for it. It basically means a guy who buys up companies and then shreds them apart and does some business bullshit and makes money from it.
Yep, sells them
by
for
destroying
parts.
things. Basically. The movie essentially follows, he hires her to be his escort for a bunch of different business things, and then their relationship develops as they spend a week together. It was received to mixed critical reviews, but was super popular. It saw the highest number of ticket sales in the U.S. ever for a romantic comedy at the time, and was the 5th highest grossing film of all time worldwide in 1990. So it's kind of a big deal.
As it should be.
Like I said, I had never seen this movie before. Veronica, you love this movie. Tell me a little about your relationship to this movie.
Well, I think more broadly, it is a relationship to 1990s Julia Roberts, I think is really important to me. As I've already mentioned in the few minutes this podcast has been recording, I am drawn to a big mop of curly red hair that's wild and free, and Julia's got it in spades. I love her laugh. I love her face. Yeah. I could and might wax poetic about the physical storytelling of this movie. It was so good.
Beautiful.
She's everything to me. I love Julia Roberts so much. And before this, she was in Steel Magnolias. And Even So, which, another great movie. God, it's so good. Ugh, I love her. She was in that, but didn't get like the household name status yet. This movie really launched her career to be like the 90s rom-com queen. And we later see her with Richard Gere again in Runaway Bride just a few years later. Well, 9 years later. It came out in 99. But she's also in My Best Friend's Wedding, which is another one we should watch. I mean, don't threaten me with a good time when it comes to watching a Julia Roberts movie.
You can go on a Julia Roberts spree.
Yeah. Do I want to be her? Do I want to be with her? I still don't have that answer for you. I think maybe. Yeah. Yeah.
Why not?
How? I'm curious, since you have never seen this film, what like initial reactions? Do we love it or list it?
I'm going to be honest, going into it, I expected to not really like it. Rom-coms are often not really my favorite movie type, and given that it's a 1990 movie, I sort of expected it to be really antiquated in a way that irritated me by being just modern enough to be relatable. So I thought I was really going to hate it. But I super loved it. I thought it was really fun. I had times I was really surprised that I actually did just laugh out loud at it. And it was always Julia, because she just had all the best lines, all the best parts. Like, she did so amazing in this movie. I loved it.
She really did. Yeah. I love that our tastes in pop culture are polar opposite. It cracks me up. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's good. We balance one another out. It's a wide variety of pop culture for us to really reckon with.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. So,
but before we get too much further, I've got our quick and dirty summary.
Yeah.
Are you ready for it, or you want to do something else first?
Let's get dirty with it. Let's do a quick, dirty takedown.
Just a quickie. Start the timer. It should be less than 10 minutes. We'll see.
Ding, ding, ding.
Okay. We start the movie. We see Edward. He's at a business party in Hollywood Hills. We learn he's charming. He's popular with women, but he sucks at long-term relationships because he has a terrible boundary with work. He's constantly working. We also importantly learn that his lawyer is George Costanza, and he takes George Costanza's fancy car to drive back to his hotel. He's struggling with the manual shifting. Lucky for him,
he only has ever
lost.
driven in a limo.
He's only ever driven in the limo. Well, driven, quote unquote.
Been driven.
He finds himself in the red light district. Vivian approaches his car. He ostensibly hires her to give him directions back to his hotel, but she ends up driving for him. She's great with cars. He ends up hiring her for the whole night because she's magnetic and he's really relating with her. Early on, we learn that Vivian is super earnest and genuine. She says and does what's on her mind. She's very direct. Their night together starts out a little awkward. They do end up having sex in his fancy penthouse suite. And the next morning, after breakfast, Edward hires her to stay for the week and come to a bunch of different business events that he has while attempting to acquire and destroy this particular shipbuilding company. He also gives her some money to buy the right clothes for more formal occasions, and then he leaves for work. So then Vivian tries to shop on Rodeo Drive, and here's where I come in from our little intro. The sales associates judge her by her appearance, kick her out of the store. They insist she doesn't belong there, couldn't possibly afford anything. She must not have money because of how she looks. She goes back to the hotel. She gets into a little bit of trouble with the staff there. She ends up talking with the manager, Barney, who is the bodyguard from Princess Diaries.
Joe!
So he's very charming also.
And you know my personal relationship with Joe from Princess Diaries is that he is who I envision Moon Pie the cat to be in our relationship. I'm Mia Thermopolis and he's my Joe.
Oh my God.
That's all
I
you
love
need to
that.
know. Yeah.
All right. Fun little aside.
Yeah,
fun
so
fact.
Joe's there and he's judgy at first, But
Yes.
it
You judge
ultimately,
it
like the rest of
first.
us, our hearts melt when Julia shows up.
I mean, who isn't won over by Julia Roberts as Vivian? So she, breaks through. Her earnestness wins him over. He helps connect her with a sales associate at a different store to help her get her cocktail dress. And he also helps teach her some table etiquette at her request. When Edward meets her for dinner, and he comes to pick her up at the hotel lobby, he barely recognizes her. He's stunned with how beautiful she is. He's breathless. They go to the dinner, but it does not go well. The shipbuilding guys are pissed. Edward is trying to take over and then dismantle the company. Vivian is struggling with the fancy and very inaccessible food and tableware. She launches an escargot across the dining room. So good.
But it doesn't go well. I want to be clear. It doesn't go well not because of Vivian. Everyone is endeared to her because the whole business is like a family company, and the guy is like, I don't want you to sell my 40 years of hard work. And so
just to destroy it.
She's a superpower. Thank you very much.
Yes. No, yeah. They love her. She's easily the best part of the whole dinner. And also, even though it didn't go well for his business, Vivian and Edward grow closer. After the dinner, he shares a little about his difficult relationship with his father, who passed away about a month ago. Later that night, we get a very interesting piano sex scene. Hopefully, we'll talk more about it later, but I'm sure if you Google Pretty Woman piano, it will come up, and it is worth doing that. At a polo match / business meeting, the next day or the next couple of days, George Costanza is very paranoid that Vivian is a corporate spy. Edward tries to reassure him. Eventually, he lets it out that she is a sex worker. Costanza immediately is a huge dick about it. He starts harassing Vivian. He asks to hire her when Edward leaves town. He's super objectifying and makes her very uncomfortable. When they get back to their hotel room, Vivian and Edward argue about this. She almost leaves. He apologizes a little more sincerely and admits he felt jealous seeing her talking to another guy at the polo match. He does acknowledge how he hurt her, and she agrees to stay.
Heartbreak Hotel.
Heartbreak Hotel. But, oh my God, everything's better because he takes her on a private jet to see the San Francisco Opera, where Vivian is moved to tears. She loves it. The opera they saw, I found this out later. The opera is called La Traviata, which is about a sex worker who falls in love with a wealthy man.
Apropos.
Yeah. That night,
and also
Vivian breaks her.
knowing that Richard Gere's character is an opera fan and he bought the tickets, that's hilarious to me. That he's like, you know what? Yeah. I need her to fall in love with me. I'm gonna tell her. I'm gonna subliminally message her with Italian. Yeah.
Yes. This is the obnoxious, elitist, rich guy version of I'll send her a mixtape and I'll put in these songs that are deeply meaningful to me and hope that she connects with the lyrics.
Reads between the lines. Yeah. Exactly
read
right.
Between the lines. And know that it's me talking to her directly.
It seeps into your soul.
Yes. And so that night, Vivian does break her no kissing on the mouth rule before having sex with him. And when she thinks he's asleep, she says she loves him. He doesn't say anything, but we see him looking very pensive and thoughtful. Their week together is almost over. Edward suggests he can put her up in a nice apartment and give her a regular wage in New York so he can see her more often. She's hurt. She tries to talk to him and acknowledge that, there's obviously some emotional attachment growing here. It can't just be work for her, and that kind of arrangement isn't going to work anymore. She shares her childhood fantasy of being rescued by a knight on a white horse and says she wants the whole fairy tale.
Yeah.
Edward goes to his big business meeting. He ends up having a change of heart to help the shipbuilding company and work together instead of tearing it apart for maximum profit. This pisses George Costanza off. He takes out his rage. He's such an angry little guy. He takes out his rage by going to the hotel room. He argues assaulting with Vivian. Her. He harasses her. He punches her in the face after threatening her. He attempts to rape her. Edward arrives and separates them. He punches Costanza and fires him. He tries to help care for Vivian's injury. They talk a little. She remains firm that she'll be leaving. He asks her to stay for the last night that he'll be in town, because she wants to and not because she's being paid. She says that she can't do that and has to leave. So then we see Vivian packing up her apartment to move to San Francisco. She tells her friend and roommate she'll be pursuing finishing her high school diploma and getting a job. She's waiting in her apartment for the bus. Edward pulls up outside her apartment in a white limo. He's waving his umbrella and some flowers out of the sunroof. What? He climbs up the fire escape to rescue her like in her fantasy, despite his fear of heights.
Oh, he's so scared.
He asks her, he's so scared. He asks her what happens after the knight rescues her. And she says, she rescues him right back.
Yes, Julia!
They kiss. The end. And that was our quick and dirty summary.
That was a quickie. I loved it.
That was a quickie. Hope you had fun.
Whew, I'm all hot and bothered from it. It's so good.
Did anything different stand out to you watching it this time around, Veronica?
It had been a while since I had seen it. In my Julia rotation, I would say my go-to comfort Julia movie is My Best Friend's Wedding.
You have a Julia rotation?
Yeah.
Good. I'm glad.
Of course.
I'm
confused by your question.
Julia rotation.
Yeah, my go-to is My Best Friend's Wedding, which she's terrible in, and it's so good, and her hair is excellent. So we'll do that next. But so it had been a while since I'd seen this one, and I just loved it. I mean, yes, it is deeply dated, and I think that the ways in which Julia Roberts depicts Vivian has so much nuance and heart and complexity. And like I said, I was just like wrapped up in her like embodiment of this character, which I can nerd out on forever. And also just the way that for its time, for its time, I think that this was one of the first movies that we got to see, and maybe still one of the only ones, unfortunately, that we get to see the story of a sex worker that is not cautionary tale rooted in like drugs and horrifics. I mean, that is happening around Julia, so we don't get away like fully free of that narrative. But I think that for the year 1990, that they did a pretty decent job. I researched a little bit, and they had Julia consult with different sex workers and do interviews and paid them for their insight and all of those things, which I think
that's awesome.
Was really lovely. And it's just there's so much to explore in this. Like I can't.
Yeah.
I'm glad we did a quickie because I think if we were to deep dive into every scene, this would be a 3-part.
It would be like 6 hour.
Yeah. I'm curious for you, what were some of the things that like made the biggest impact on you? Positively, negatively, something else?
Yeah, it was very mixed. There were definitely things that I was like really impressed with, like you said, for a 90s movie. I was like, wow, I'm actually really surprised with how they're portraying this. And there also were things that obviously still had issues in there. I will say, like, to peel back the curtain a little bit in a meta sense, we're trying something a little different with this episode where we do the short summary and then like try to take a more holistic look at some of the messages and things we took away. And trying to do that, like watching the movie, just watching it and not taking as many notes, and then trying to sit there and think for a few minutes after, like, what did I take from this? I felt like my brain is empty. There's not a thought in my head. I'm like, wow, I'm an extremely uncritical person because I'm sitting here thinking, Julia Roberts was beautiful. She did an amazing job. I just love her. And that was a fun movie. I really had to sit there like staring at my laptop trying to take notes like, but what did I think it was telling me about relationships or sex? And it was like weirdly hard for me to figure out what I actually thought I took away from the movie.
Yeah. Well, maybe it would be easier if we like dove into some of the scenes or the moments that stood out the most to you, and we can dig in there.
Oh, don't worry. I got there. I did my homework. I struggled with the assignment, but I got there.
This isn't homework, Blair. This is supposed to be fun and pleasurable. Damn it.
It is fun. I'm a big dork, so it was still
good.
fun.
If you like your notes, then that's fine.
So I'll say, okay, so some of the things I liked that I thought were really positive. I liked that Vivian is assertive. I like that she enjoys sex. And to me, the movie ends up being pretty clear that she's deserving of respect and love, no matter her socioeconomic status or whether she's presenting as a sex worker to others or as a quote unquote lady, although there's a lot there with like what constitutes a lady. I also did like that the movie reinforced that money really isn't everything. Edward has basically unlimited money and he's pretty unhappy and emotionally empty despite that. And I also, one of my favorite moments in the whole movie is I think it was after that dinner. And Vivian's asking Edward more about like, what do you do though? Like, what is your actual job? Where are you getting your money? And she says something like, oh, so you don't like make anything. You don't do anything.
Right.
You don't actually
You don't do anything. You don't make anything. You don't sell anything.
You just have money. Yeah.
Yeah.
I really like that she called out he has kind of fake money. And she's like, but you don't, so you're like $1 billion company, but you don't have $1 billion. So like none of this is real, basically.
Right. You're basically taking this, you're jacking a car and selling it for parts is what you're doing. But it's legal. Yeah.
Yeah. And he kind of has to admit like, yeah, I guess it is kind of like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that was probably my single favorite part of the movie.
That moment?
Yes. Because she's like she's not being aggressive, but like I said, she's assertive and she's curious and she's just very genuine and earnest. She's like, I want to understand this, but also it is kind of bullshit and I'm not going to pretend that it's not.
Yeah, absolutely. I think from the jump, she is so in her power, even in moments where the overarching power dynamic is not in her favor, right? Like she is in a situation that she has acknowledged like other women that she works with have been harmed, or like we see the show opens with Skinny Marie having been found in a dumpster, right? And Hank Azaria randomly is our journalist for that moment, which we love. And so I think that there's this really lovely sense of her boundaries and her worth and her assertiveness that I want to be very clear that I don't think is unusual for someone who is a sex worker. Like I think that we as a culture are not growing enough in this way, but I think that more and more there are like many folks in that industry who are like, no, I do this because I like to do this. Like this is my chosen profession. It is not an in the meantime thing. It is not just a survival thing. Like I can be in my power and choose this with eyes wide open. And so I think that is one way that this has not aged well, and the language they use to describe her job has not aged well. And I think even so, unfortunately, a lot of the ways we as a culture talk about sex work has not grown very much from the 90s, unfortunately. But I think even in situations where like she's alone with some dude that she just got in the car with in his penthouse, and we see that he's surrounded by a lot of George Costanzas, meaning like a lot of men who would enact great harm on a person in that situation. And still she asks for what she needs. She sets her boundaries. She says, I don't kiss on the mouth. And then she zips down her boot and has a rainbow of condoms and is like, pick your color, pick your favorite color. I'm a safety girl. And I'm like, yes, Julia, just do the thing.
And even when later she's like, okay, I need to go into the bathroom to like freshen up. And she like insists on privacy to floss. She's not doing anything in particular. She wants to floss her teeth. And he's like, wait, what are you doing? And she's like, no, get the hell out. I get to floss.
So we see his bias come through.
Yeah, and we see him assume that she's doing something illicit or illegal. And she's like, I'm trying to floss my fucking teeth. Leave me alone. I get to have privacy for this because I asked for privacy and you don't have to know what I'm doing.
Yeah. Gum health is really important.
It is. And also, I guess, like you said, because unfortunately our society has not come super far in how we talk about this as a culture, the podcast position is that sex work is real work and is deserving of like respect and much more protections than it's afforded now. But I guess it just occurred to me we should be explicit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you for that. I think the growth that we see in Julia Roberts throughout is so interesting because I don't know that it is one for one in alignment with her quote unquote becoming a lady.
Yeah.
Like this could have very easily been a Pygmalion story, yet another Pygmalion story,
Yeah.
very akin to She's All That, right? Like
Mhm.
that. Oh, he takes this rough girl and he puts her in a cute outfit and teaches her how to eat with the right fork, and suddenly she's worthy of his attention. But it's actually, that's not the message I received from this.
No, I
like
don't think so.
We see her. Okay, a brief aside for my embodiment and physical storytelling nerd self.
Go there.
Is that it felt like nesting dolls of layers in the opening night when they are together. So she goes up to his penthouse hotel room or rooms, and she asks him like, well, so what do you want to do with me? And he admits, he's like, I'm not really sure. I've never done this before, but I'm sitting here. He's literally just sits down at his desk and starts working because that's his default setting. And her physicality is so interesting because when she is in her work uniform, essentially, right? She's got the thigh-high glossy boots and this fun, like, bodycon dress.
I love that dress.
It's like a little midriff situation, but it's attached by this, like, metal circle on the front and the back.
Yeah.
I loved it. Would wear. 10 out of 10 recommend. But when she's in that, and she has a wig on that does make her look like Carol Channing, which she asks her roommate at one point, and I loved. She is wearing, or when she's in this outfit and like in quote unquote character as the like performing femininity that she does for her clients, right? Because she names later on, she's like, this is a character. I go on autopilot. Like when I'm doing this, I just get into character and I do what people want me to do.
Yeah, she's doing her job.
Yeah, she's doing her job and performing this idea of intimacy with her
client,
patrons, her clients. And she's so clunky and gangly. It almost, her body language is in this outfit is like very Bambi and very fidgety. And that's the thing throughout the movie is that he's like, can you stop fidgeting? But she's just like out of body in her own skin when she's trying to perform this version of sexy. And yet when she is not quote unquote in character, that awkwardness kind of goes away, but that's still almost like it's like her limbs exist outside the edges of her body.
It's like she starts thinking too hard about it.
Yeah, it just feels like she's so in her body and all of these other scenes that, and when I say in her body, I don't mean like just naturally sexy, which she is, but like she sits down to breakfast the next morning. Yeah, she sits down to breakfast the next morning and like she's in her robe and she kicks one knee up and she's got her arm rested really lazily on her knee and is asking questions and eating pancakes with her hands. Like she's very sensual, like in her senses and in her body in the way that almost like an unself-conscious preteen kid would be, right? Like that you're just like sitting and eating absent-mindedly, not thinking at all about how your body is being viewed. But when she is aware of how her body is being viewed, that gawkiness gets more self-conscious. And so she just like can't seem to get it together in terms of her body language. But then as she like continues to grow in self-advocacy as well as connection with Richard Gere's character, the gangliness like slowly goes away and it's not performing sexy. I think that she just like relaxes into the experience, and that's when she gets more and more magnetic. So, I mean, to me, if I were a kid watching this, I would learn A, Julia Roberts, hot as hell, want to be her when I grow up. B, that our ideas of what is quote unquote sexy isn't as alluring as when we are ourselves, and that's the sexiest thing of all.
Yes.
And also, that's still like a skinny white woman who's stunning that is telling us that story, right? So if it were not Julia Roberts telling that story, would we still get the same message is a question. But I think
I'm with you.
That was so fascinating to me.
I got the same thing, that it was very much like when she's putting on, okay, I'm going to follow the sexy script, are the times that the audience at least seems to be meant to find her less appealing. And I don't know if that's how much that's a comment on sex work versus how much that's a comment on like her being her genuine self is plenty sexy. And so is like the moments when they're able to be emotionally connected and vulnerable and just honest with each other are the times that they feel the most attracted to each other. It's not like she's doing the thing. She's got her cleavage out and it's not necessarily the script that makes them like each other. It is when they're able to break through that and just be themselves together that they feel the best, and they like spending time together in that way the most.
Yeah, absolutely. Ugh, it's so good. What do you think about Richard Gere in all this?
My main exposure to Richard Gere's, I watched Chicago 80 million times on repeat as a teenager.
Okay, this is the intersection of our interests, is Chicago.
Chicago, yeah, that's the nexus where we connect. So I always think of him as Billy Flynn, the skeezy lawyer from Chicago. That is my main reference point for Richard Gere. I liked him in this. I did feel weird, like something that did stand out to me as some like a recurring thing with him and his character was this almost like he needs her to vicariously experience emotion.
Yeah.
Like they have this shopping scene where he takes her back basically and is like, wait, they were mean to you after you got kicked out? Okay, well, we're going to go shopping like for real. And he uses his wealth and privilege to bully the staff into sucking up to her. And he's there the whole time and keeps saying, I think we need more sucking up. Like, I think we're going to need a lot more. And anytime they try to like suck up to him, he's like, no, her.
No, her.
And he wants to watch her reaction to it and how she's feeling and experience it. And kind of the same at the opera. Like, he takes her to the opera. He tells her all this stuff about how touching it can be, how moving it is. And he's like watching her the whole time for her emotional reaction. And she's crying and he's just watching her. And he doesn't seem to be emoting very much. So I thought
he doesn't emote really at all.
No.
But I don't know if that's just this character or just Richard Gere.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know that Richard Gere really emotes with his face.
He does his little sly smile, and that's kind of it.
Yeah, but his eyes stay like pretty, like at half mast. His eyelids are at half mast, and he's peering at all times into whatever's happening. And so it's like, well, I don't know how you're feeling, Richard. It's very confusing to me. But so we don't get a ton of embodied.
Yeah, I don't feel like I know
from him.
Edward especially well through this. Certainly not his emotional.
But he's like he's almost like a little experiential service top, right? He's like, I just want Julia to have a good time. I want to see
her feel like really.
I want to see the world through her eyes.
Yeah. Yeah, it really did feel like he had this experience, which seems to be maybe a little bit of a trope in these like super rich guy romance movies where like, finally I have something, I don't feel anything, but I can spend my money on you and you feel things. And so I like
she's like an emotional surrogate for him, basically.
Yes, suddenly my money means something because you can experience it and you have strong emotional reactions. And I don't know how much that's sort of a like classist thing. I don't know how much in some ways I sort of got the message from this that like, well, women are supposed to be emotional and exuberant and react to things maybe enough for men to also get that kind of vicarious experience of emotions because they're not going to feel things as strongly.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the dynamic we're seeing here for sure. And
yeah, like that's what it seems like the movie says, maybe.
The movie is giving us, yes. I wonder if you would throw Vivian under the umbrella of a manic pixie dream girl.
Okay. When I was talking about this with my partner after seeing it and like I had these kind of like mixed feelings, it was a little odd. And she's like an emotional surrogate for him in some ways. He brought up, is this like early manic pixie dream girl? And I think that this maybe is an early iteration of it. It doesn't feel quite the same because she's not like, I'm so
Twee.
quirky. I'm not like other girls. She's pretty clear. There's a lot of women in the world just like me.
Yes.
So there's not that element added into it yet. The like maybe internalized misogyny part of it hasn't come into the equation just yet of the manic pixie dream girl. But I think you're right that there is certainly maybe some early DNA for that.
Or like at least the function that she is supposed to play in this tale, right?
Yeah.
That this woman who is like, she's free and she sees the world differently, and being in relationship to her is
Makes
how
him come
this
alive.
man grows and comes alive and realizes that he wants something different. Like, it's all in service of his growth arc.
Yes.
This movie in some ways falls deeply into that trope, but also I think just when I think I can put it in a box that way, Julia hops out with something else and throws me through a loop, right? Like, she holds her own and she advocates for herself and says, here's how you're not going to treat me. You're not going to treat me like I don't have autonomy, and I just because you paid me for this service doesn't mean that I don't get to consent, that I don't get to have boundaries, and that I don't get to be in my own corner. Like, she does that so beautifully and doesn't just emotionally bend to his needs at every turn, right? And I think there's a version of this movie where the character playing his sex worker employee for the week would, right? Like, that's a really tricky power dynamic situation to be in, because the question in the back of one's mind, also with any job, right, is like, if I stand up for myself, is my boss going to fire me? Like, that is a question that many people are constantly reckoning with. And in this situation where it's perhaps even more vulnerable because her literal body is on the line, not to say that's not the case for many employees, we see her at every turn choose herself. And I think that not in spite of her profession or because of it, but just because of who she is, that she's like, I fell into this work and it's complicated and it's also not all bad. And I also need the money, and you have a fuck ton of money, so give me your money. So I could see another version of this where that character kind of lets him walk all over her, because $3,000 in 1990 money is like over $7,000 now. I did the math on the internet. I LOL at me. If any universe anyone believed that I just did that math is so
you mean
funny.
you didn't
But
just pull out pen and paper and do it all by hand?
I did, on my like lined graph paper. No, I went on the inflation calculator, and that's what it told me. So that's a lot of money,
Yeah.
And especially since we see that she's dodging her landlord because they don't have the rent because her roommate partied too much and spent it all. I'm just like so in love with how at every turn she chooses herself. And even when he quote unquote rescues her, which is such a trope, right? I hate the white knight thing. Yeah. But she rescues him right back. And I'm like, yes, Julia. Yes.
Yeah, I agree. I think that she's always clear that, yes, this is a job and I can quit. You do have some power over me, but I don't have to stay. I'm not going to be trapped here is what I'm not going to do, which was a big part of her feeling like, I don't know that I can agree to move to New York to work for you.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of wild. I don't think I'm doing that.
Right. Even though it would be like free place to stay, a life of luxury, but in its own way, to use her, childhood imagination game, like, isn't that its own tower that you're stuck in? Like, quite literally. Now the knight is your captor.
Yeah.
In many
well,
ways,
they bring up a few
times
times
a lack of choice.
The reason why having like a manager or pimp can be problematic and can create more issues for you. And it seems like they bring that up sometimes in parallel with some of the suggestions that Edward makes, because he is ultimately suggesting like low-key trafficking her. Like, yeah, let me just move you to a different part of the country where you'll have no support system. And yeah, let me just take you across state lines on my private jet or whatever the hell. So
he offers to traffic her.
He offered and she declined.
Hate to hear it. Yeah.
I want to hear a little about your thoughts on, because we're talking a little about how he can be a bit controlling. I think there's a connection between this movie and 50 Shades of Grey,
which I haven't seen.
I haven't seen either, so look forward to that in a future season. And like the idea that in some of the ways he's controlling is portrayed as romantic, like not telling her where they're going, expecting her to just get on a plane with him, a strange man that she's known for a few days, and go wherever, telling her what to wear, suggesting that he can just tell her where to live. But also, so then they had this argument about how Costanza was treating her at the Derby.
James Alexander also is the man's name, to be very clear.
Okay, Alexander, his actual name. I can't see him as anything other than Costanza. The way he talks to her, and she said, like, nobody has made me feel as cheap as you did today. And he's like, well, I very much doubt that. He's very shitty about it.
I
and
gasped
very
aloud.
Belittling, contemptuous, and like
it's those four horsemen.
Acknowledges that he hurt her. Yep, four horsemen of relationships. Contempt is a bad one. That is where we start drifting into emotional abuse, and it's not acceptable in a loving relationship. It is incompatible with respect to be contemptuous in this way towards someone. And to me, I liked when he apologized to her at the elevator in like the last minute before she's about to leave. And he acknowledges, I did hurt you. But why is his jealousy held up as like, oh, so romantic? He felt jealous and controlling and possessive. And also, his apology was not sufficient for me to feel reassured that he's not going to get contemptuous and belittling again when he's mad about how she behaves.
Yes, I agree. I think what I would have wanted to see, I'm glad that he acknowledged he was cruel, right? Like his second apology. During the argument, he like throws out an apology, like, I'm sorry, okay? But ultimately at the door, the elevator door, he's like, a real apology. And also, it's hard to know how real an apology is when it is happening at the very last second because somebody is actually following through on what they said they were going to do, which is leave. You know, was that another desperate attempt? We can't know that. But I think the moment that I would need to see to feel better about that we don't get to see in this movie is them walk back through the door and her say or him say like, okay, what needs to go different next time, because you are going to be jealous again. Jealousy is not an inherently bad emotion. It is a natural emotion. It means we care about something. It is our body and our heart telling us that like, oh, there's something here that I value and I need to examine it. Like, how do I know where are you going to go and do next time you feel jealous? Because you're going to. I'm hot as hell. I'm Julia Roberts. You're going to be jealous.
I'm hot as hell. Everybody wants to talk to me. I'm magnetic and charming. Everyone's going to be talking to me, and I'm very friendly, and I'm allowed to talk to other people.
Right.
You're going to feel jealous.
Right. And you can't let your, like, oh, what is the word for it? I wanted to, like, what's the word for, like, discrimination against sex workers? I guess it's slut shaming.
Oh,
maybe,
slut shaming.
You can't.
Misogyny.
Right. You can't let your slut shaming and misogyny come out when you are angry as though it is a valid chip to play. Like, that is not what is going to happen here. Like, that's not how we're going to move forward.
No.
I think there needed to be a debrief that I did not get to see, which I understand, because why would director Gary Marshall want to give me that? I was just born.
It's not sexy.
When the movie came out, it was the year I was born, so I wasn't able to verbalize this just yet. But believe you me, if I could
I have some notes for him 30 years later. But I agree. And I was discouraged not only by not having the debrief, but that a little bit later in the movie, he again throws out he's like disrespectful in how he talks about sex work and says, so incoming questionable language for sex work. He says, quote, outdated and disrespectful language about sex work in the movie, in quotes. He says to her, I never treated you like a prostitute. And she says, after he has walked away, so they never seem to actually resolve or address this, you just did. And she's clearly very hurt. Yeah. And so it does not make me feel very optimistic about him working through, like you said, slut shaming, possessiveness, misogyny, whatever feelings he does have about the work that she's done that he's not really acknowledging and not really talking about, and being
that he wants to quote unquote rescue her from. Yeah.
Right. And not really being kind to her about how she wants to talk about and look back on her work and the career that she's had.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we do see glimpses in other arenas where he is capable of change throughout this movie, right? Like in the span of a week, just 1 week with 1 week with Julia was enough to have him shift his value system around like how he has only prioritized work and is lacking meaning.
Moved some internalized capitalism stuff for him pretty quickly.
And it shouldn't be on her shoulders to make him a better person. I think that is a thing that is the core of rom-coms that is so frustrating. I wouldn't even call this a rom-com. There's no com to it. It's not funny.
It's not, there's just only a couple times where it's a little funny, but it's not mainly a comedy, I would say. Yeah.
I want to, before we get to the end of our time, I want to hear your thoughts on the sex we see depicted. Highs, lows, curiosities, the 90s of it all. What are we learning from what we are or are not seeing about their sexual dynamic?
Some things I thought were interesting were that it is both, it felt a little more erotic than a lot of what we see in current media, but less explicit to me as a viewer. There was longer shots. It was less cutting away. There was more like sensual.
That built anticipation, I think.
Yeah, a lot more anticipation. I think also with having this sort of no kissing on the mouth thing, there's more tension and anticipation building between them that, again, there's not cutting away as much as there is in like modern media, I think. So the viewer stays with it for longer too. And yet,
which feels so much more intimate as a viewer, I think.
Yeah, it feels more like I'm watching something very intimate, like, and genuine taking place. But then it cuts away. Like, I think we see a little bit of Julia's boob in one of the scenes, but nobody,
maybe a little bit.
We don't even seem to get any of the like simulated thrusting that we often get in current media. It's like, okay, once the implication is a sex act is beginning in earnest, we fade to black, we cut away to a different scene, and then we fade to black and change what day it is.
Two moments that I want to highlight. One is the piano scene. So this scene, obviously I fell down a rabbit hole with it. I'm such a sex choreography nerd. That scene was originally just supposed to be that he is found playing piano for all of the workers at the hotel late at night as he's processing what happened at work that day. It was later decided, like on set, that they were going to have this be where Julia walks in and that something happens between them. Richard Gere, fun fact, got a composer credit for this film because it is actually him playing the piano and he's improvising that song.
Whoa. Okay, Richard Gere.
And so that scene, she walks in, they're talking. He tells boys, like, gentlemen, will you give us a minute? And she's like, does everyone just do what you tell them to do?
All the time. Yeah.
And he doesn't really respond.
Anything.
But then he pulls her toward him over the piano, or like she's standing in front of the piano, but he like shifts her body to be directly in front of him. And so she like tickles on the keys as she does.
Yeah. And her butt hits some of the keys.
And then she says, I guess so. And they have, it's so good. They have this weird negotiation of boundaries in which he like places her on the top of the piano with her legs spread and he's in between them. And he goes in to kiss her on the mouth and she angles her face away and moves into what we are supposed to intuit as like, okay, she's stepping into like her standard operating procedure, right? This isn't about her pleasure necessarily. It's about like performing pleasure for him. And we can see that he is disappointed by that. And then she leans back onto the piano as a way to like remove the boundary issue of kissing on the mouth. And it still continues. And so obviously it's hard to be like, oh, wow, this is such a great model of how like people can have boundaries and things can continue, because it gets complicated and muddied by the fact that she was hired to engage in sexual encounters with this guy, right? But I think there's such rich storytelling that happens there, and it is slow and sensual, and the energy of it is so different from their first sexual encounter, which is one of my favorite choices in all of sex scenes of all the movies ever, is that she is watching I Love Lucy, which I love Lucy. And so she's watching I Love Lucy, and right, she's like on the floor on her belly, kicking her little leggies and eating snacks and watching I Love Lucy and cackling. Like she is like having the best time. So unself-conscious. It's fantastic. And he's once again, this is for the first time we see him delighting in her delight. Yeah. And they make eyes at each other, and she takes that as a cue to begin. Yeah. And she mutes I Love Lucy, but even as she's beginning to like take his shirt off and get between his legs for oral sex, she keeps like glancing over at I Love Lucy and giggling to herself, which I love so much. And the energy of those two exchanges is so incredibly different, even though they only take place like 15 minutes apart in the movie. Like it is very clearly Bambi Julia, who is like, I am performing sexy for you because that's how I was taught how to do it. And even in the span of like a day or two, right? It's not the same night. Yeah. It's like later.
No. Yeah, it's like a day or 2 days later or something that the piano scene happens.
Yeah, that we just like see such a shift in their physicality with each other, and that they're like kind of in this liminal space where it doesn't feel like she's performing anymore, but it also isn't yet safe enough to let herself renegotiate her boundaries. And I'm annoyed that he presses and keeps trying to kiss her on the mouth a little bit. He eventually moves forward. I'm curious what your thoughts are about it.
I kind of started to get the feeling through the movie. Another way to see some of his controlling behaviors is I think he sort of likes a brat. And I think he sort of likes being told no. Like he calls her on the phone in the hotel room and he says, I told you not to answer the phone. And then he calls her again immediately. And she answers and he says, I told you not to pick it up. But he's clearly having fun. And he loves that she answers.
Stop
he
calling
wanted her
me.
to. Yeah, and she's just like, then stop fucking calling me. I'm going to keep picking it up if it rings. And I think he likes that. And I think the same, like, I almost got the feeling that he sort of liked being denied the kiss, especially right after reaffirming, like, does everybody just do what you tell them, what you want them to all the time? And he doesn't say anything. And she says, I guess they do. But then she doesn't.
Right. That she, like, allows herself to be pulled toward him. But does not allow herself to be kissed on the mouth, right? Yeah. And the fact, I mean, really, I am a little prickly about their first kiss on the mouth experience, that she kisses him while he's asleep. And once again, it's like the 90s and it's supposed to be seen as romantic.
And also a fairy tale callback, I think, because he's like asleep and she kisses him and he wakes up. So I think it's a little fairy tale nod because they make another couple references to like Cinderella and stuff too.
Okay, Blair, look at you.
I'm pulling it out of my ass. Okay, I don't know anything about
that
movies.
And if the shoe were on the other foot, Cinderella's foot, and like he were to kiss her, right? Boundary aside, but I think that like kissing
Still,
someone
nonetheless,
awake
he's asleep.
is depicted as romantic in a movie and is not. Full stop.
Not pre-negotiated,
romantic.
did not agree to any sort of somnophilia kind of play, did not agree to any of that from either of them. Yeah, didn't like that.
That is a moment I would adjust. I recognize that at that point, maybe she was only brave enough to do that with his eyes closed.
Well, and it makes it very clear it's for her. And it's not because he wanted to. He wasn't pressuring her. He wasn't asking her. There was no implication that he expected her to. It was all her deciding that that's what should happen.
I will say, one thing that I would want different, and this isn't even a sex scene thing, is I wanted her to beat the shit out of George Costanza. I didn't, and I know he's supposed to be her white knight. So like when George is like attacking her, Richard Gere comes in and pulls him off of her and punches him and is like, get out of here. Yeah. And he's like, I dedicated my life to you. And he's like, no, you didn't. You love the kill. And it's like, oh my God, you guys. The Tox mask energy is more than I can bear. But when watching it, it's so clear that he's getting ready to make moves on her. And she, rejects his advances. But I'm like, Julia, you are twice this man's size. Just stand up. Stand up and move to a different couch and or hit back. And she does hit back. She fights back too. But I want Julia to get like a good swing in before Richard Gere comes in and quote unquote saves her. I think I understand the story they're trying to tell. Yeah, Richard Gere holds him still, and then Julia just gets
punches him in the face a few times. Yeah, why not? Because you're right. I get that on the one hand, they're trying to tell this particular story. They need to portray her as sort of helpless and defenseless for him to rescue her. And also, it is true that we don't choose our fight or flight response, and lots of people freeze, and it doesn't mean anything about their personality or character. And lots of people who have every reason to think they're just as strong or stronger than their assailant freeze up, and that's just something their body does, and it works because here they are afterward. And also, I agree, it would have just been so much more satisfying if she also got a kick in, a good punch, even after, like you said. Why can't he hold George Costanza by the shoulders a bit and let her go to town, give him a few punches? He deserves it.
Yeah. I think that's a helpful distinction to name, right? That like it is not that I was frustrated with Julia or like didn't understand why Julia might freeze. Right. Understandable why someone would not hop to action. Yeah. And as a viewer
and as a script writer, they could have made her hop to. Right. They could have let her do that.
Exactly. So, to me, 10 out of 10 for this film. There's so much that we could unpack with it. There's so many. We've already started to do some of our like healthy ever afters that we want. But I'm curious for you. We leave kind of open-ended, right? They're kissing on the fire escape. He's scared of heights. She's going to rescue him right back. With the money she made from her week with him, her plan was to like start over in San Francisco and apply for a job, and she'll have some cushion for a new place. Love to see it. But what happens next? In your dream world, what happens next for these characters?
In my dream world, what happens next for them is that Edward continues in therapy. I did like that he mentioned he's been in therapy and that it has been helpful, although it's been slow going for him. So I want him to continue. I think I want them to be real about the wealth inequality between them and for him to use some of his egregious, stupid wealth to help her out. But I do want, so I guess to me what that would mean is he helps start her out, getting her moved to New York. But it's by like, here is the money. Find your apartment. Choose what you like. Do whatever. We can't immediately move in together. We'll go on dates. We'll build a relationship, negotiate how things look for us. I'll pay for our dates because I obviously have the money. It's only fair. And she figures out, like she was saying, I want to finish my degree. I want to figure out a job. I want to see what I enjoy doing. Like maybe something with cars. She's great with cars.
Loves a
That'd be
car.
super cool for her to get into like some kind of mechanic or driving sort of job. Like that'd be awesome. I see that for her. And for him to be supportive, start drawing some boundaries with his own work, pull back a little, like give her sort of a safety net, I guess, to let her start up because the cycle of poverty is so unforgiving and hard to get out of without some sort of help like that. But without taking that, like, so I'm on your lease. I own your apartment. You live with me. Like, I don't want that for them.
Yeah. And I think that, I mean, even as you name that, that hoped for ever after, it's complicated to even identify exactly how that could be, right? That like she probably can't get an apartment by herself and he might have to co-sign a lease. And so what agreements or structure need to be in that dynamic to feel okay to her? And I could see her being like, you can help me out financially, but I want to like help work for this guy's company, right? Like he's going to start building ships with this old dude. Who, as an aside, was born in the year 1904. He died the year after this movie was made. He was in His Girl Friday with Cary Grant and Katharine Hepburn, an old Hollywood king. We'd love to see it. But all of this to say, right, that it is complicated, and I think what will be key in that happening, because it's not going to go perfectly, is her naming what she needs to feel secure and also like in her power, because it is a deeply inequitable to power dynamic. And while it might seem romantic to just take care of everything, and that's a perhaps lovely intention, we know that when we just give people things and don't include them in the process, or like give space for them to like step into their agency and autonomy, that it's icky. It doesn't work well.
Yeah. It just ends up being controlling, and he needs to move away from that.
Yeah. I love the idea of them not working together, or not living together, and like getting to just date, you know?
Yeah, like not always flying to Chicago for the freaking opera kind of dates as well.
Yeah.
Maybe some more.
Because it's not all grand gestures.
Dates. Yeah. Well, so any adjustments you would add, or anything you would add for a happily ever after, healthy ever after?
I mean, this seems good to me. I like where we're going with this. I think some good negotiations around the setup that will feel good, and also like a plan for her, because she's not going to want that dynamic or setup forever, right? Like to freely choose versus to feel indebted are very different things, and it complicates it. So I think knowing our beloved Vivian, she is able to like set her clear boundaries. My hope would be that Richard Gere develops some humility and do some unpacking of all of the misogyny and slut shaming that exists in the world, and what he can do to be a better accomplice and ally in the work. Boom, 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 pretty woman. This movie was going to be called 3000 for the amount of money that she was going to make.
God. That's a terrible title.
I know. This is much better. I'm so excited we got to talk about Pretty Woman. This is not even touching scratching the surface of all of my thoughts about all of it. It's so good. It's so 90s. The fashion, the bold blazers, the ugly ties, the long linen trouser shorts. There's just so much here to really dig into.
So much.
And I'm so glad I get to dig into it with you. Thank you for having
I'm glad
this
we're in the
conversation
Julia
with
rotation
me.
now.
I know.
Thank you for talking to me. Introducing me to Pretty Woman.
It was my honor. All right. It was so lovely. We'll chat next time, I guess. Everybody, if you have not seen this movie, go watch it and report out. I want to know your thoughts. I want to know how you feel about I Love Lucy being on the TV while they're going at it. I'm pro. That is lovely to me, but I understand maybe that's not your vibe. And until next time, I think my mom's going to be home soon, so I better I better run and
Oh,
change
shit.
the channel because she will
Better
not
get outta
approve of this lingerie on Julia.
No.
Thank you so much for joining us today on Mom's Not Home Till 6. Pitch us your healthy ever after. Leave us a rating or review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts. You can find more from us by following me, Veronica, on Instagram at the.dressrehearsal, or you can support us on Patreon at the Dress Rehearsal Studio. We'd like to extend our gratitude to the queer and trans communities, past and present, who have made it possible to be the people we are today, and to you for listening. Now be sure to go change that TV channel to something appropriate. Catch you next time.